So welcome to Superstars of Wrestling. We're going to give this a shot on YouTube. See if I can pull it off. This is the opening show. I'll give you a little story, background with where we're heading here. In recent weeks, Mr. Wonderful Paul Orndorff has been not only winning his matches with his devastating pile driver maneuver, but he's been taking it a step further, taking his opponents outside the ring, removing the blue covered mat, and pile driving his opponents on the concrete floor. So what we have is he's doing this to get the attention of the WWF World Champion Hulk Hogan, who's currently doing an international tour through Japan. He's been in Russia, the UK. He is gone for the next month. So Orndorff, in an attempt to get Hogan's attention, is doing these devastating maneuvers on the floor. One man has stepped up to interfere, and that was Hacksaw Jim Duggan. So we have a big match coming up in a few weeks at the Philadelphia Spectrum. It's going to be a tag team match of Hacksaw Jim Duggan and Hulk Hogan as they take on King Kong Bundy and Mr. Wonderful Paul Orndorff. So we're kind of setting up the Paul Orndorff title chase of Hulk Hogan, if you will. So our first match here will have Jim Thompson taking on Hacksaw Jim Duggan. We thank you for coming out tonight and giving this a shot. Jim Thompson in recent weeks doesn't have many victories under his belt, but he's been some stiff competition against the likes of Ricky Steamboat, Honky Tonk Man, and the Iron Sheik. And here he comes, Hacksaw Jim Duggan making his way to the ring. He did not like that Mr. Wonderful was taking advantage of his opponents and said, well, since the Hulkster's overseas and can't answer any challenge, I'm going to try and stop this nonsense before more people get injured. We currently have a few people out with injury. The very first person that Mr. Wonderful pile drove on the concrete floor is returning tonight for the first time in several weeks. Corporal Kirshner. Later on this evening, he'll be taking on the mighty Kamala, the Ugandan giant. Hacksaw Duggan's finding himself in trouble. Like I said, Jim Thompson doing a great job in recent weeks. Doesn't have any victories to show for it, but he's a tough competitor. Whip into the ropes, and a block. Two big men in the ring here. You're talking a lot of beef. And Hacksaw going to town. Picks up Thompson. And a fist, a left right to the head. Knocks Thompson down to stomp for good measure. And a wild punch, right hand, left hand. Oh, blocked by Thompson. A kick to the midsection. He has Hacksaw where he wants him. A beautiful neck breaker. He should go for the cover. That was a great move. A kick to the shoulder. I don't know why he's not going for the pin. He whipped out a beautiful neck breaker followed by a back breaker. What a great move. And Jim Thompson, if he can stay on top, may have his first victory here in the World Wrestling Federation. Another neck breaker. Go for the pin, man. Oh, Hacksaw knows that and rolled out of the ring. Must have heard me from up here in the balcony. Oh, and knocks him out to the floor. And Thompson's going to follow him. He's not going to let him have a breather. This is great. And a beautiful leg drop on the concrete floor. Now that padding is very thin. Rammed him into the steel. And a beautiful neck breaker. Jim Thompson turning on the heat. Another knee drop to the head. This would be quite the upset. Picks him up. Body slam on the edge of the ring. Jim Thompson is not playing around. Another knee drop. And Hacksaw's in deep trouble. A body slam on the floor again, and apparently that body slam onto the ring broke the count. They're up to a 4 now. Working the Hacksaw, Jim Duggan. Oh, he's out of it. Jim Thompson having his way. Throws him back in the ring. Go for the cover, man. Oh, he's allowing Hacksaw to get up. That's a big mistake if you ask me. Leaving Hacksaw up against the ropes. And, oh, he backdropped him over the top rope. Hacksaw knew it was coming. Gave him way too much time. I think Jim Thompson's going to regret not going for the pinfall earlier. And now Hacksaw is going to take charge. Follows him outside. A fist of his own. Oh, a little payback. So slam him on the edge of the ring. Let's see how Jim Thompson likes it. A little bit of a payback for Hacksaw. Picking him up, he's going to suplex him on the floor. Oh my Lord. What a great move. Pounding away Hacksaw. They got to get back in the ring. Referee count up to 5. Oh, and a block. Another block. Jim Thompson finding his way out of this one. The referee's count's up to 8, I believe. Hacksaw's getting back in the ring. Could he win this via count out? He's going back out. That's going to break the count. And I think Jim Thompson may have gotten away with one there. He would have lost via count out. He wasn't going to get up unless Hacksaw went after him. I think this is oh my, he's throwing him into the crowd. Here we go. People getting their money's worth here in Hershey, PA. Oh, and Hacksaw over the top back in. A beautiful clothesline. Thompson back in the ring, and he'll take a count-out victory. Is it going to be? He won by count-out. Jim Thompson with his first victory here in the World Wrestling Federation. And that's quite an upset. Count-out, pinfall, you name it. Jim Thompson with the victory here on Superstars of Wrestling. I don't believe it. I don't think anybody believes it. He has been having some great showings as of late, but his first victory here in the World Wrestling Federation comes via count-out victory over Hacksaw Jim Duggan. And I'm in utter shock, folks. You stay tuned. We will be right back with more Superstars of Wrestling after these words. We are back with more World Wrestling Federation Superstars of Wrestling action, and I still can't believe what we just witnessed. Jim Thompson getting his first victory here in the World Wrestling Federation, a count-out victory over Hacksaw Jim Duggan. Now, earlier in the show, we mentioned that Hacksaw Duggan had come to the aid of many wrestlers who were on the receiving end of a Paul Orndorff pile driver on the concrete floor. The very first wrestler that Paul Orndorff did that to was Corporal Kirshner. This is his first action in over a month and a half, and he drew the short end of the stick, getting a match here with Kamala, the Ugandan giant. So we'll see if that head and neck injury is fully healed, but if it's not, this is not the kind of opponent that you want to have that injury against. And conspicuous by his absence is Kim Chi. This is really odd. We're not used to seeing Kamala without his manager, his handler, Kim Chi. I do wonder what kind of effect that may have in this matchup. And there he is, ladies and gentlemen, the returning Corporal Kirshner. He looks like he's in great shape. Not favoring that neck in any way, holding the Old Glory over his shoulder. Time will tell if he's fully healed or not. One has to think that giving Kamala any advantage is not necessary. Oh, he goes right after Corporal Kirshner, takes him down to the ground. And picks him up by the neck. Oh, I think Kamala, believe it or not, the Wild Man scouted this out, this injury. Kirshner, oh, a big fist knocks him down to the ground. Kamala's taking him to the center of the ring. And a big splash. Is that it? That's a 1, a 2, and a 3. And I'm not sure if Kirshner took enough time off. He came back in, didn't get any offense in this match, and the Ugandan Giant Kamala, with a big splash, has his way with Corporal Kirshner. And I'll tell you, folks, I did not see that coming. I would not think Corporal Kirshner would have returned prematurely, but it appears he has. And now we can add a bunch of rib injuries to that list of injuries. And Kamala, without the aid of Kim Chi, is victorious. Well, fans, don't go away. We'll be right back after these words. And here they are, ladies and gentlemen, the #1 contenders to the World Wrestling Federation Championship, the Hart Foundation, Bret Hart and Jim the Anvil Neidhart. Currently getting the admiration of the fans after dumping manager Jimmy the Mouth of the South Hart. Jimmy has vowed revenge. He said there will be a team at some point somewhere where the Hart Foundation will regret that maneuver. In the meantime, in a match that was already signed for Superstars of Wrestling, they'll be taking on SD Special Delivery Jones and one Mario Mancini. There he is, the madman from Italy. I say that jokingly. He's one of the nicest guys if you ever have a chance to meet him. Mario Mancini. And look at SD Jones. I don't think it's going to be that easy. In the ring with Bret the Hitman Hart. So it's very odd and rare that a tag team in the middle of the rise to the top would get rid of their manager. In this case, the Hart Foundation were making their way up the ladder, became #1 contenders to Nikolai Volkov and the Iron Sheik, and then dumped their manager Jimmy Hart because they claimed he wasn't giving them a title match due to his friendship with Sheik and Volkov's manager Freddie Blassie. So they took matters into their own hands, got rid of Jimmy Hart, and now that contract match is signed for Madison Square Garden in 3 weeks' time. It will be the Hart Foundation when they challenge Nikolai Volkov and the Iron Sheik. And SD Jones with a headlock. Beautiful maneuver on Bret the Hitman Hart. SD Jones coming off a victory last week against Barry Horowitz. Looking to continue that in tag team action here. And if Mario Mancini and SD Jones can pull this victory off, what would that say about the tag team division here in the World Wrestling Federation? And Bret Hart spun around. Hasn't been much offense here on the Hart Foundation. SD Jones having his way with them. And into the turnbuckle goes Bret Hart. And he's going to tag in Mario Mancini. A little double team work, whips him into the ropes. And a double shoulder block takes Hart down. Hart trying to make the tag to the Anvil. Mario Mancini cut that off. And a big forearm uppercut. Misses with a stomp, but does not miss with a fist and a knee to the midsection. Oh, beautiful move. And a Russian leg sweep. Go for the pin, Mario. Makes a tag, and here comes SD Jones. I think Bret Hart definitely needs to get out of this ring. The Anvil on the side is going crazy. And maybe this is something that Jimmy Hart would have instructed them to do, is more tags frequently. And a neck breaker by SD Jones. Bret Hart trying to make the tag, and SD cuts him off. Wow, coming down hard on the arm. SD Jones having his way with the Hitman. And another arm breaker. Bret Hart desperately needs to make a tag. The Anvil going crazy on the apron. Well, rolling out of the way. This could be the opening Hart needs. And whips him into the Colonel. The turnbuckle. Mario with a fist in the stomach and a beautiful maneuver. And Hart makes the tag finally. Here comes the Anvil, charging with a forearm to the head. And a clothesline takes Mario Mancini down, and a forearm again. And Bret Hart is outside. Our cameras can't pick this up, but he is outside. He is shaken up. Anvil on the second rope comes down, flying axe handle. And a DDT by Jim the Anvil Neidhart. Could this be it? He goes for the cover and kicked out. Too soon for Mario. There's Hitman making his way back up to the apron. Neck breaker by Jim the Anvil. If he's going to cut the tag, he does. Mario cannot tag out. Rakes the arm down to the mat. And a stomp. Picks him up. What's he going to do? Beautiful. Beautiful maneuver. And the Anvil looks like he's going for a move. Picks him up one more time. And flapjack back to the ground. And a beautiful tag. Mancini gets in SD Jones. Forearm to Anvil. And a spinning forearm. Beautiful maneuver. A forearm again. This could be SD Jones' day. Oh, taunting for the fans. Giving Neidhart some time to recover. And an elbow drop by SD Jones. Could this be it? He's setting him up. And the Anvil with a fist. Oh, and a beautiful move. Stomping away at SD Jones. I think he's had enough. And stomps down on the arm. One has to think that if Jimmy Hart was at ringside, this match could have been over by now. And the Anvil looks like he's setting him up for a move. Over the head, over the shoulders, and down with a slam. Is that it? Goes for the cover. 1, 2, and kicks out by SD Jones. And a neck breaker by the Anvil. Drags him over to the corner. And Bret Hart doesn't look like he's ready to come back in. He is still fatigued from earlier in this match. Anvil noticing that and takes him back to the center leg and drops a big leg. Over his shoulder and guillotine over the top rope. And he's going to make a tag. Oh, he tags in. Mario Mancini comes in. And forearm to the Anvil. A clothesline by Mancini. A forearm by Mancini. And a DDT by Mario Mancini. Could this be it? He goes for the cover. 1, 2, 3. Mario Mancini and SD Jones upset the #1 contenders to the World Tag Team Championship. And this audience is stunned. It appears that today's show was the day of the underdogs, as not only Jim Thompson beating Hacksaw Jim Duggan via countout, but SD Jones and Mario Mancini beat the #1 contenders to the World Tag Team Championship, the Hart Foundation. I am utterly shocked. Folks, we'll be right back after these words, but I don't believe it. Ladies and gentlemen, the final match of the evening is going to be Jumpin' Joey Maggs taking on Mr. Wonderful Paul Orndorff. As we mentioned at the top of the hour, Mr. Wonderful has been pile driving his opponents after their victories on the concrete floor. Well, we have just been informed by President Jack Tunney that not only will Hacksaw Jim Duggan and Hulk Hogan wrestle Paul Orndorff and King Kong Bundy in 2 weeks' time at the Philadelphia Spectrum, but in 3 weeks' time in Madison Square Garden, Mr. Wonderful will get his opportunity at Hulk Hogan for the World Wrestling Federation Championship. Now, there was a clause here that Jack Tunney, insisted that if Mr. Wonderful pile drives any more opponents on the outside floor, that he will rescind that world title match. So I would look for Mr. Wonderful to be on his best behavior, as he finally got what he was looking for and spent the last month and a half injuring wrestlers left and right here in the World Wrestling Federation. So Jumpin' Joey Maggs can at least take comfort that should he not have his way today, and let's be honest, he may have his way today with some of the things we've seen so far tonight, but should Mr. Wonderful win the match, he will not pile drive Joey Maggs on the outside, or he will give up that world title match in 3 weeks' time. And Mr. Wonderful coming out giving fans some hard times, but you would think he'd be smiling with that news, but he's just as angry as he has been, and maybe it's still good. He has been on a tear as of late, the new #1 contender, and manager Bobby the Brain Heenan couldn't probably be happier. He could be the next manager of the world champion. And there's the bell, and Mr. Wonderful with a takedown on Joey Maggs, a kick to the back. A punch, and Mr. Wonderful, Joey Maggs grabs him, and a suplex by Joey Maggs. Maybe he smells that upset that we've been experiencing thus far this show. Cramping down on Mr. Wonderful's shoulder, and Mr. Wonderful reverses and takes Joey Maggs down with the leg sweep. Setting him up for a suplex, and beautiful suplex by Mr. Wonderful. You know, this guy is full of talent. It makes me question why he would injure people to get the attention of Hulk Hogan. The championship committee had to have known that Mr. Wonderful was deserving of a world title match. You would have thought he would have gotten it eventually. And with Hulk Hogan overseas anyway, doing his international tour, it's not like he could have that world title match this week anyway. Mr. Wonderful having his way currently with Joey Maggs, and I spoke too soon. Knee to the midsection takes Mr. Wonderful down. He's gasping for air. Picks him back up, going for a suplex of his own, and nails it. And Joey Maggs looking to end this show with a victory over the #1 contender for the World Heavyweight Championship. And quite honestly, nothing would surprise me anymore. And Mr. Wonderful with a pickup and a body slam down to the ground. A big elbow to the head. I can't tell from my vantage point if Joey Maggs has been busted open. Does not appear to be the case. And Mr. Wonderful with an inverted atomic drop. Beautiful move. Not so beautiful if you're Joey Maggs. And Mr. Wonderful calling for that pile driver. Is he going to hit it? A midsection, another punch to the midsection. Into the ropes. And there's a clothesline. Usually the precursor to the pile driver. And Mr. Wonderful looks like he's setting him up for it. Lining him up. And there it is. The Mr. Wonderful pile driver. Nobody does it better than Mr. Wonderful. He's going to cover Joey Maggs. Will that be it? 2 and a 3 count. The night of upsets is over. Mr. Wonderful pinning Joey Maggs in the middle of the ring. We'll take a look at some highlights. And Mr. Wonderful the victor. And wait a second. Don't tell me he's in the pile driver. Joey Maggs on the concrete. He will lose that title match. He's stomping away. Thus far keeping it in the ring. Kicking him all over. Mr. Wonder, you have your match. Leave the man alone. Well, there you have it, folks. Mr. Wonderful Paul Orndorff, the victor, on a show full of upsets. In 2 weeks' time, we'll be teaming with King Kong Bundy as they take on Hacksaw Jim Duggan and Hulk Hogan at the Philadelphia Spectrum. Also on that card, the Macho Man Randy Savage will defend his Intercontinental Championship against Ricky the Dragon Steamboat. And then the big one, 3 weeks' time, New York, Madison Square Garden. The World Heavyweight Championship as Hulk Hogan returns from his international tour in New York City and takes on the challenge of Mr. Wonderful Paul Orndorff. You do not want to miss it. Tickets are available at Ticketmaster as we speak. Folks, thank you for joining us here at Superstars of Wrestling. We'll see you next week. Bye-bye, everybody.